Right. So this research folder that is available is not complete, right? So you can go and get your research from there, but please be kind and also upload your research to this research folder so that we have a huge database of research available for when our kids start that. And remember, when we give our learners research, yes, they can, for example, get the research on their own, but the point is they must get useful and useless research, okay? Because the whole point is sifting. Right, then phase 1. The usual, all right, the usual of creating a folder structure. I'm going to focus mostly on the changes. Forgive me if I want to, I'm not going to rush through it, but I would like to focus on what has changed. For the sake of the people that are new, you just follow the steps according to the slides. I am going to go through them as well, but I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the changes. All right, so step 1, create a structure, a folder structure. This folder structure can be something you have for each learner. They must be the same, or it could be each learner's own folder structure. However, when you give marks, and you'll note that this is number 20 and it's not phase 1. This is marked in phase 3, right? Electronic or hard copies of all documents, that's fine. All files organized into a logical folder structure. Now, if I'm a moderator and I don't know which one is the report, it's not logical, right? If I open phase 3 and I can't find the report, then I'm sorry, it's not logical, all right? I can maybe give them a mark for logical because the subfolders are clearly named, but we can't give them a mark for easy to find or navigate. When I want to give you that mark, I need to open the folder and immediately know where to go. And how do I immediately know where to go? The folder and the file names are, can I use the word logical one more time? They are logical, all right? So please don't give the marks if an outside person wouldn't know what to open. We find this at moderation. We have a problem when we open this, we don't know what to look for and we don't know where to find it. I'm sorry, then you can't get 4 out of 4, right? Once you've done this, you make a screenshot and you paste it in the appendices, underneath the appendices heading, which you don't have at this stage, but you will get it soon, okay? Right, then let's create the report. What do we want? We want the name and surname, the name of the school, the subject name, the path topic, and the content control for the abstract, which in phase 3, you can get 3 marks for, right? So you can't look at phase 3 because it says report. We don't mark the report in phase 1. The abstract is not there yet, but we will mark that one in phase 3, okay? But these are the things that need to be on the cover page. Okay. Then, these are the headings that should be created in the report, okay? No negotiations, right? No debates. These are the headings. Question? Do I have a question? Mute person, please, Karin. Thank you.
Sorry,
right.
Muted.
Thank you. So these are the headings that should be there. So when you create the headings, or when you tell the kids to put headings, you put the heading on each page, right? So I've got the cover page plus the table of content 2, table of figures maybe on 1, so it's 2 pages, the introduction 3, task definition, discussion and analysis. I've got many pages already. All right, because some people are wondering about the number of pages and will it be enough or whatever. Yes, it's more than enough. So relax about the number of pages. So when you give marks, right, we're in phase 1 now, you give 1 for a single report. And when we started the pack many moons ago, we had people that said, okay, we've got the cover page, we've got the report, and we've got the bibliography, all three on different documents. We want one report. And the minimum headings, more, yes, but less, no. These are the headings we want, okay? We can maybe give the mark for the screenshot of the folder structure now if they've put it in, or we can give it to them later when we are done at the end of phase 1. And the sources we can't give yet, okay? Then how should these headings be? You need to tell them now that the font should be easy, the font type should be clear, the size should be whatever, the heading should stand out, and there should be styles. And once you've told them this, you can show them that in phase 3, the report, these are the marks that you get for what you did in phase 1. And if you follow the steps, headings stand out, styles are there, different the levels of headings, heading styles are used, then you can give these marks in phase 3 already. You never know what's going to happen in phase 3. You're going to have a toothache, then you can't mark it. So you will be happy if you marked it in phase 1 already. Okay. Then the appendices. The issue we have at moderation is that the folder structure is there, but the screenshot is not the folder structure. Okay, so basically tell your kids that when you create a folder structure in phase 1, you create the folder structure for the whole pack in phase 1. Yeah, fine, the report will be copied from one place to another, but you can have a folder and put it inside the folder when you get there. All right, so don't let the kiddies do phase 1 folder structure and then you give them a mark for the folder structure. This is for the whole pack, not just for phase 1. And then there's a source table. Some people are asking me still, should they get the source table? Should they do the source table? If you want to let them do the source table, no problem. You can let them create it themselves. Or you can, and there's a folder that I've emailed to the subject advisors with all the resources. The source table is there. And then obviously the declaration, you'll note that the declaration is also a document on its own. They can screenshot it and paste it there, or they can just sign it electronically or whatever, which way you want to. When do you get these marks? You get the marks for the screenshot now in phase 1. We don't have the sources yet. Okay, and also tell them that we want page numbers, we want page breaks for each heading. Now we told them that when we created the headings, a section break before appendices, put the appendices page in landscape, change the page numbering for the appendices page, etc. And this gets marked in phase 3. Note, it's the report in phase 3. Automatic page numbering, headers, footers inappropriately per section, the appendices, page breaks, and use section breaks for new sections. So you can get these marks in phase 1 quick. Okay. Then the task definition. I like, okay, and people are stressed about the 300 words. Don't be stressed about the 300 words. It will be 300 words, I promise you. If you answer all 4 the questions, what is the current situation? What will the focus and purpose of my investigation be? I'm jumping to the next slide and I'll come back. How will I go about the investigation, and who is the target audience for the final report? And tell them, put smaller headings for each of these questions and answer the questions like, what is the current situation? Yeah, we are in lockdown, but hairdressers were not able to get an income during lockdown, so they all hairdressers had to maintain social distancing during lockdown, or music artists were not allowed to have gatherings and what. And what will the focus and purpose be? So what is my focus and purpose? I'm going to look at ICT solutions to solve the problem that I just currently mentioned. And add the 3 headings that you're going to use, because I'm one of those people that before I start the research, I need to get my 3 headings first. Okay, so get the 3 headings, from which cost will most probably be 1. Okay, and then how will I go about the investigation considering all the PAT requirements? Kind of sort of describe the steps. Don't copy it from the PAT, and you need to check that. And then Some people are stricter than others. We need to be very consistent here. They need to describe all the, I'm not going to say phases, but all the steps in the PAT. They can't just say, no, I'm going to, in phase 1, go and research, and that's it. You need to get it clearly, and they need to mention all 3 the phases, and they need to mention that they need to analyze it, and they need to mention where they're going to analyze it, and they need to mention that they're going to present it, and they need to mention who they're going to present it to, etc. So let them answer these 4 questions, and I promise you 300 words would be easy to obtain. Here are the marks for phase 1 now. So if they've answered all 4 the questions, and I'm going to go back to what I said last year, don't let the kids write stories because you now understand the PAT better. When the first year when you taught the PAT, you were basically looking for the current situation. Mark the current situation, all right? And don't be pedantic now because you understand the PAT better. It is your child's first time doing the PAT, right? Maybe not the PAT as such. For some of them it will be the first time, but not the PAT as such, but this PAT, it's their first time. Okay, what will the focus and purpose be? How will I go about the investigation considering all the PAT requirements? Who's the target audience? Full stop. And we don't want master's dissertations, we just want sentences. It's a grade 12 learner. Right, then ask one question, the focus question. One question, the answer of this question will go into the conclusion of phase 3, right? Then a single sentence, not 2 questions or a paragraph, a single sentence, a single question. Then concise and researchable. This is the one that gives us a problem. Some people say it's researchable, some people say it's not researchable. It can't be a closed question. It has to be an open question. Has the COVID impacted on this sector? Yes. Researchable maybe yes, but not necessarily concise. You get where I'm going with this. So this is the mark that we're struggling with. And then the focus of the investigation, and yeah, obviously relevant to the focus point. This is the focus question marks, 4 marks. Clearly phrased question will be researchable. It's a single question and it's relevant. Right, now let's go to the table. We create the table, we type the table, we give them the table. The point of the table is that it should be in the report. It can't be outside. Okay, so 10 questions. You know the story of the 10 questions. Question number 1, put the question, and then you're going to get 10 questions either per level. In other words, you're going to have a level 1 and a couple of questions, level 2 and a couple of questions, level 3 and a couple of questions, but they only need to be 3 levels, né? Or you're going to have a category, the heading in other words, and a couple of questions, the heading and a couple of questions, the heading and a couple of questions. That's another way. Or you're going to have source number 1 and a couple of questions, source number 2 and a couple of questions, or source number 3 and a couple of questions, or you're going to have 10 questions, right? So up to however, whichever way you want to do it. Okay, right. 3 levels, I told you. And like I said last year, don't be difficult in the sense of, in the past, when I started the PAT, when I put in a who question, I gave it as level 1. Now, because I understand it better, I'm wondering, is this who question a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, or a level 4? Just, it's a who question. Give it as a level 1. Is it a when question? When are we going to what? According to the PAT guidelines, it's a level 1 question. So what do I tell your learners? Give me questions for each of these. We in the past had 1 for who, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions for the first level, 6, 7 questions for the second level, 8, 9 questions, 10 questions if we've got all 4 levels. All right, don't, can I say, overthink the questions. Yes, I understand that it could be different types of questions, but it's still only a grade 12 learner doing this PAT for the first time. You may understand it better, but he or she doesn't. Okay, then you take your 10 questions and you put it in headings. Now, some people like to put the category, the heading last. The problem is if they've got 10 questions, some of them have 10 categories, right? So preferably let them choose 3 categories and then let them set questions on the 3 categories. Because if they do it according to 10 questions, they might not consider the fact that it only has to be 3 categories. Alternatively, you can let them have 10 questions and then divide the 10 questions into 3, can I say, broad categories. Up to you. Right. Examples of categories. So you can't let them write down the task definition, set 10 questions, levels of the questions they can do in one period. Categories must be explained before they start their 10 questions. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, you can break this up, but it still becomes a whole. You can't let them set 10 questions and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, say, okay, now let's categorize them. Explain the whole thing to them first. Here are some examples of categories. I'm one of those. My categories were always background, impact or cost, and solution. But it doesn't, that's up to me. Even master's degrees, whatever, background, impact or cost, solutions. So it doesn't matter which categories. Give them the categories, let them think about it. Okay, here are some examples of what is the background, what is the problem, what is the impact, cost, solutions, etc. How will these questions fit into? All right, and then they get these marks based on what we said. Okay. Now you identify 3 sources, 2 internet, 1 other. Now note, a website is an internet source. However, a newspaper can also be an online source. So what is an internet source? It's a website. It's written, done for an internet. The internet, right? So any other source can be electronic, don't get me wrong, right? A video can be electronic. A magazine can be electronic. We didn't say 3 electronic sources. We said 2 internet sources and 1 other. All of them can be electronic. Okay? Internet, a website. Okay, I'm not going to answer that question. 3 sources. Now you add the 3 sources to the table for each question. And please be careful. It's a source for each question, right? And 2 websites and 1 other. Whether it's 2 websites for 9 questions and 1 other, it's okay. It's okay, right? Then now you're going to note them. Now I'm a lazy person. If you want to be lazy, you have to be smart. I'm for sure not going to complete the table. I'm going to insert it in the bibliography and then screenshot the table. I'm not going to do work twice. But explain to them that I need the following information. So whether you put it in the bibliography or whether you type it out, it's okay. Remember that it's the grade 12. So he needs to understand why you are doing what you are doing. Okay? The other source, and the marks. Let's look at the marks. It's all for all. Ne? All for 4 marks. All 3 sources for 4 marks. All for 2 sources for 3 marks. All for 1 source for 2 marks. Or some for 1 source. Okay? So, but there's a second part to the memo, can I say it like that? If they did some, and when I say some, I mean 4 or 5, for all 3, they can get the second part. In other words, they get the 3 marks. Or they did 2 or 3 for all 3 the sources, or 2 of the sources, then they can get this mark, 4, 3, 2, the 2 mark. Or just some for 1, then they get the 1 mark. It's only when they have nothing, for nothing, they get 0. Okay. So we said they can put it into the bibliography, and if you want to go read more about it, this is a link in the pads, that's fine. Now they have to evaluate. The difference between finding sources and evaluating sources is anybody can go to the internet and start downloading. But once you start talking to the sources, you will use them or not. That's the difference. Okay, evaluate them. How do you evaluate them? I spoke about that. You will write about the stories here: authority, currency, accuracy, objectivity, and coverage. Explain to them what each is. Note, this was in the theory paper. I told you that PAT is tested theoretically in the paper. This is tested practically. So you must use this as a teaching opportunity, because kids do very, very poorly in the paper 2 information management question. Why? Because we ask them, what criteria do you use to evaluate sources? Then they don't know. But here they are, right? Why do you think currency is important when you evaluate sources? You need to consider these. Teach them. Okay, no one-word answers. And here's an example. No, this is not the example. This is what you need to check, right? And here's the example. So you need to explain why you do what you do in the PAT. Okay, and when they've got all of them, you get the marks. Right, last part. So you can save it as a screenshot or as a PDF. I think 2 years ago, this print friendly wasn't working. To be honest with you, I haven't tested it this year, but I'm sure it was because the guys that gathered the sources said that they used print friendly. Okay, so now what are you going to do? In the last column of the table, you are going to add your information. Okay, you'll note that I used last year's. Or you're going to, I told you I'm lazy, you're going to put it in the heading and you're going to hyperlink it with a bookmark to the heading. Okay, when you've done that, you get your marks. Then you save your sources in your research folder, and then you can get this last mark. Nothing has changed. Right, now what you can do is you can stop there. Or you can take this information and put it underneath the headings that you put in your report. Okay, remember that you should consider the font, you should consider the font size, whatever, because this counts marks in phase 3. Look, phase 3, the report, body text, and all body text is left aligned. So it counts marks in phase 3. What you do in phase 1.